Welcome to your return to exercise postpartum video on the pelvic floor, a nice overview, some breath work, and some stretches that hopefully you will view before we get into our full workouts. Right off the get-go, I want to go over the signs and symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction with you. So these, if you have one or multiple of these, I highly advise that you seek further guidance from a pelvic floor physical therapist or other pelvic floor specialist of your choosing, either in conjunction with or before you do this work with me. So let's go ahead and name those. All right, so we've gotten those disclaimer out of the way. It's not just a disclaimer for me, it's really in hopes that you will seek the care and get the care you need. Don't just push through it. Go see who you need to see. So, what is the pelvic floor exactly, you might ask? It has been a buzzword recently in the healthcare industry, and for good reason. These are the muscles that are sitting like a hammock or a bowl at the bottom of our pelvis. They actually run this way, from our tailbone to our pubic bone. And their job is to support our internal organs, to help stabilize our core, and to be the gatekeepers for urine, feces, and anything that might come out of our vagina, such as a baby. Therefore, we want these muscles to be strong and mobile. We don't want them tight, and yes, there's a difference between tight and strong. If they are tight, if they are weak, they are more likely to not be able to release and relax or to quickly respond and contract when we need them to, which, if that happens on a regular basis, can lead to those signs and symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction that we just mentioned. As you can imagine, after carrying a baby for the better part of a year, we have had a lot of pressure on those pelvic floor muscles, and they're tired. It's very unrealistic to think that those muscles will just be back to their full function and strength after carrying a baby. So during our return to exercise workouts together, we aim to reconnect with those pelvic floor muscles to get that mind to muscle connection strong to better support, pun intended, those muscles to do their supportive job for us. In particular, contracting when we have a heavy lift or higher impact movement, not to mention being able to relax if we go to the bathroom when we have sex to avoid any strain or pain there. And again, I already said it, say it again, these workout videos should be supplemental to any work that you're doing with a specialist and not in lieu of. All right, so now we're going to talk about pelvic floor breathing or a connection breath. So this is what we will be doing at the start of every workout together, again, as a way to connect with those pelvic floor muscles at rest and just get a better sense of how they're feeling and what they're doing. We want them to know that they are needed and loved. All right, so as we inhale, our diaphragm drops to allow air into our lungs, and that increases the pressure inside our abdominal cavity. So our intra-abdominal pressure increases on our inhale, and in order for that breath to distribute evenly inside that cavity, we need to relax our pelvic floor down. If we do not, there's a lot of pressure on that pelvic floor, and again, they can get tight or weak. So being mindful just on a breath at rest can really help you get a sense of full range of motion of, again, what those pelvic floor muscles are doing so they can be functional. And it is worth mentioning that the pelvic floor is part of our entire core unit. So it is the floor of the core. The diaphragm is the top of our core. And the abs, erector spinae through our back, all are the canister outside portion of that core. So it's a one big unit that works together. So if we are inhaling and letting that diaphragm drop as the air comes into our lungs our rib cage will lightly expand to allow that air into the abdominal cavity. So that's where that core, or excuse me, our abs and our back muscles come into play. And then it's almost like blowing up a balloon. Rib cage comes out, our pelvic floor drops and descends like a balloon might do, like there's a balloon blowing up inside that cavity, and we release and relax the pelvic floor as that air comes in. And then as we exhale, that balloon gets deflated slightly. We do a light little lift of our pelvic floor muscles, like an itty bitty Kegel, like a 20%, not really a hard Kegel squeeze, just a little lift so we feel them releasing, and our rib cage will draw back together and that air comes out of our lungs. So this is kind of the blowing up the balloon analogy. Some people like to think about it as an umbrella as well. That works. And then another analogy that might work for you, I say lightly draw up of the pelvic floor muscles. We can be thinking about that vaginal opening and thinking almost like there is a straw, sucking a blueberry up, a lot of people say, or no straw. Maybe you're trying to hold on to a marble inside your vaginal canal. You can also think about this to the urethra or the anus, because there's 3 holes down there, remember. So any of them, that entire muscle system, that tissue wants to be drying up and away without, this is the key, without squeezing and contracting our glutes or our abs. So it's just those internal muscles that we're focusing on. So I like to do this and practice this sitting on a nice, soft, cushy surface, or yoga ball or exercise ball can definitely work. You can sit lightly on a towel or a pillow, a couch. I have a nice soft cushion here, and get our sit bones out of the way. So we're going to practice this. That bony little pieces on the bottom of our pelvis, so that whatever soft thing we're sitting on, we can feel a connection between those 2 sit bones on that tissue between them. So that is a tissue that is below those pelvic floor muscles, right? So we don't want it to hurt. We shouldn't be like sitting on anything, like a hard something. Should be soft, but you want to be able to feel that connection. So diaphragm, pelvic floor, I'll go this way. Again, as we inhale, our lungs fill up, our diaphragm drops, our pelvic floor relaxes. We should feel some connection with that tissue into our soft surface. Not a bearing down, not a pressure, not a pressing pressure, just a natural relaxation and feeling the drop. And then as we exhale, we lightly draw away. We should feel that pressure recede off of our soft surface as our diaphragm returns back up and the air comes out. So let's do a couple of those again together. This is for your viewing pleasure. You don't have to do this with your hands. You can relax your shoulders and arms to your sides or wherever they're comfortable. But here we go. Inhale. Diaphragm drops. Rib cage slightly expands. Pelvic floor relaxes. And exhale. Lightly drying up. Pelvic floor, rib cage slightly comes in, air goes out. Inhale, relax, pelvic floor, and exhale, lightly draw. 2 more, inhale, relax, pelvic floor, feel connection of those tissues onto your soft surface without bearing down, and exhale, lightly draw that tissue up, so your vaginal opening, your urethra, your anus is doing a little squeeze, a baby 20% squeeze, and we're not contracting those glutes, right? All right. So that is the connection breath or the pelvic floor breath with some rib cage expansion. Practice this on your own if you'd like to, especially if this felt weird and you weren't really sure what you were feeling, if you couldn't fully feel the relax, or it felt like your squeeze was a little bit weak, whatever it is. Yeah, practice it, make that connection, and you can do it in various positions as well. All right, so I'm going to show you just a few quick pelvic floor engagement stretches, exercises. These are things that we are going to do together as well, but giving you a little sense of how this feels. So from all fours, we're going to do a little hip pull. I'll go kind of in an angle here. So we're starting with our wrists under our shoulders and our knees, under our hips. Our fingertips are out wide. We're nice and engaged in our core, so have a nice flat back. And I'm going to pull my knee off the ground from my hip joint without trying to engage and use glutes, abs, core, leg muscles. I mean, they're going to be working, but the motion should come just from that hip. I'm not opening my hip here. I'm just drawing away, very slight motion. This is putting a nice stretch across my pelvic floor, seeing how my hip mobility is on this one side and how that's connected. I can look down and see how high I'm drawing my knee up. I don't want to be pressing into my foot either. You can even like lift your foot off the ground if you want to. But again, this should all just be from that hip socket joint. And then if you do 4 or 5, maybe 6 on one side, and then 4 or 5, maybe 6 on the other, see if they're even. Do they feel even? Do they feel like one side is more tight than the other? We are not symmetrical beings. So yes, itty bitty little way to stretch and test out pelvic floor range of motion there. The second one I am going to show you is going to be a hip car. And you can do this sitting or standing. I think I'll go ahead and show you standing. I do like to do this holding on to something. So if you have a wall, put a hand there. And then I like to have a hand on my hip because I don't want to be raising it. I want to be keeping that hip down. So I'm keeping my hand on there and holding here so I don't lean my torso. My spine is staying nice and straight. Grounding my weight down into my left foot. I'm raising my right knee up at a 90-degree angle. My foot is flexed. And I'm going to use from my hip socket, tilt or internally rotate that joint in. So my heel's going out, my knee is going in, again, without lifting my hip. Trying to keep that hip here. Only go as far as you can. And then make a big circle. Hello. Sorry, plant, kicking you. Around and back to where I started. So I want to do a couple of those. Maybe I need to move my plant. Up, slight tilt again. Don't raise that hip up. Just that hip mobility. Socket joint. We'll do one more on this side. Awesome. And I'm going to show you the other direction. So still at a 90, I'm going to push it back without dumping forward, without arching my back. So I'm keeping that straight spine. Only go back as far as my glute strength there allows me. Rib cage stays down. And now I'm going to open up my hips, meaning I'm externally rotating from that hip joint out. And now I'm doing a big circle forward. Back to where I started. Open it up. Circle back to where I started. Oh yeah. Good hip mobility, good stretch on the pelvic floor. Obviously do both sides. I'm only showing you one right now today. We will come back and see that in our workouts together in the future.